dock. We gonna start getting paid for this shit. And I'm gonna start docking that nigga pay. No call, no show. Let's see. All right, we live. Hold on just a sec.
All right.
Peace, blessings, love, and light, people. Today we gonna talk about Pastor Michael Todd nasty ass.
Right.
For some parts of it, then we gonna try to lead into something else because I don't want to get too caught up on it. But that's why I titled it the way I did about. That's why I titled it the way I did about should we cancel the Bible, right? Because it's a lot of things in the Bible I don't think y'all notice in there, and I might hit one or two of them, but I want to do a way bigger podcast than the one we gonna do tonight on it because
Right.
it's a lot of people that ask me stuff, man, and I just kind of want to get it out there. Do I believe in the Bible? Somewhat. Do I take it literally? No.
Yeah, you can't
I
take the
don't.
Bible literally.
I don't think a lot of it is
You
meant to be
can't.
taken literally. I think some of it is,
Right.
and I think other things are just left to be a story to get you to
Right.
a destination.
Right. As my pastor, when I was younger, she used to tell us, you chew up the meat, you spit out the bones. Everything ain't for you. You know what I'm saying? So that's how
Right.
you have to see the Bible. And that's how I personally see it. Like everything is not for me. And then a lot of people have to understand when you study the Bible, when you start quoting scriptures and everything, you need to like really understand what was going on during that time. The Bible is just someone's um recollection or their their idea of what happened. They're telling a story. So it's like you can't put everything word for word because
Right.
that was someone's experience of it, someone's point of view of what happened. It could have been totally different. Some stuff probably never even happened. You know what I'm saying? But you got to understand like what's going on in that part of the Bible. Like for instance, the Corinthians, that was an organization. There was no church in the Bible, but the Corinthians was the organization, like kind of like a form of government. So everything that was written in the book of Corinthians was written to the Corinthians, which was like the governments of that time. But in that time, it was like a lot of like stuff going on. Like you have to really understand the Bible. You just can't say, oh, in Corinthians it says, but he was speaking to the Corinthians, and at that time, the Corinthians was like the government at that
Right.
time. And so, he was a person, he was like a governor, or, you got to understand what's going on at the time, who said it, and, why they said it. You just can't quote a scripture and then, use it as law. That's not how it works. And a lot of people don't understand that.
Right.
You hear it in church, you hear your grandma say it, you hear your auntie say it, and then you quoting it, but you don't even understand what happened, what was going on in that time. Why was he even saying that? And who was he talking to?
Right. It's a language barrier in the Bible that a lot of people don't get and
It is.
understand, and the language barrier don't make sense to a lot of people because we don't sit down and we don't discuss or even get an understanding of what time period that it was written in, so we'll understand the language. So, um,
Right.
it's a lot of things to discuss on that, man. But we're gonna jump straight into it. I know y'all seen the video, and I'm not gonna play that shit again. I can't stand it because I wanted to fight as soon as I heard it. Right? I was I was finna be on some, as they say, some real nigga shit. I was finna be on some other shit, like, cause I was and
I had
I
to move
heard,
my camera and get a better angle. But go ahead. I'm listening.
uh, uh, I don't know, man. I've watched the series of Pastor Michael Todd, and I like his message on some of this stuff, man. Right, and
Right.
he
Uh-huh.
he's always had props and things of that nature for um for his messages. which is cool, and I think it's a way
Right.
to bring forth some ideas and illustrations to let it click. Because a lot of people like me, a lot of people ain't like me, but a lot of
Right.
people learn visually, and when you learn visually, it's way easier
Right.
to get it. You know what I'm saying at that
Right. And
point.
that's
Um,
sorry,
dang,
y'all. I have to
how do I find? How do I find? I might have to play a video from my
I think
phone.
y'all.
Huh?
I'm still trying to get my camera. I think I got it now.
Um, phone. Nah, I want to search something real quick. There you go.
My clothes in the bag.
But see, when we talk about when we talk about Bible scriptures, I wish I can log in on here so I can play the video up here. But I don't know what the hell my login is for that account. Um, and it's gonna make me log in to even see it. Oh well, X that plan. I'll play it from my phone. But when you dealing with biblical scriptures, right? All of them aren't meant to be taken literal, and people don't understand that, and
Right.
like really get down into it. But back to Doctor Michael. I mean, Michael Todd, Pastor Michael Todd, if you want to still call him that. I'm gonna have a real issue from this day forward calling him a pastor. But the situation
Because
was
he's spitting his hand because he was just trying to raise. I feel. Okay, go ahead.
this what happened. So y'all will know what happened because I can't play the video again. But he was given a description of, I want to say the verse is Mark 23 about Jesus spitting in the dirt and making the blind man see again. So he was describing this as your vision being cloudy and you have to go through something real
Mm-hmm.
nasty to get on the other side of your vision and make it through. But in the process of this, he turned around and hawked a loogie in his hand and wiped it on the dude's face. Like my nigga. First of all,
Oh, he wiped it on his face.
yes, he wiped the shit on the. You didn't. Ugh. He wiped the shit on his face.
Oh, I didn't see that.
He wiped the shit on the dude's face. He really did. He did that.
Oh God.
Yeah, he wiped it on Buddy's face, man. Right
Yeah,
after
that's
he,
great.
after he spit in his
That's
hand,
close.
he kind of rubbed like this, and then wiped across his forehead, and then wiped his whole hand across Buddy's face. Shit! I would have whooped his ass.
With how the virus and everything is going on,
Yo,
that's crazy.
the virus is one thing, but
Okay.
being downright disrespectful is something totally different as well. Because to me,
Right.
we was
Right.
always taught you don't spit on nobody. Granny didn't taught you that,
Right.
so you don't do no shit like that for one.
Dude. Yeah.
For two, who are
Mm-mm.
the people in your corner that allowed you to do this shit? Like your wife didn't pull you to the side, nigga. Say, hey, don't do that. That ain't it. Your deacons didn't pull you to the side and say, hey, bro, that no, you don't. No, don't do that shit.
That's kind of like at that point, when they're doing messages and stuff, they try to like push the envelope, be like the most
Right.
raw, the most upfront. I understand that. But when it comes to your body fluids and we're still in a pandemic, that is awful. That's like lawsuit type nasty. Like you could really get sued because that's putting really?
I
That's
don't.
awful.
I don't need to
I
see
didn't
you.
know he had rubbed it on dude's face.
Yeah, you rubbed it on dude's face.
That's bad. That's bad. See, the video I seen, it was just a TikTok and it stopped once he hawked in his
Yeah.
hand and it stopped. But that is gross. I understand he was trying to boost the people's faith, but that's gross. Like, when you on the street and you go to fight and somebody spit in your face, oh, that's it. it's time to destroy them at
Exactly.
that point. Like,
That's what
that's
I.
the line.
That's what I mean.
Or
Like,
I make up my mind, I'm gonna go to jail.
that's what I mean, right? So it's so many different levels to. It's so many different levels to that shit. To where, what the hell made you think that was a good idea? Gonna do. Like,
Hmm.
not only do we take it as disrespect or a form of it's time to nuck if you book, in the great legends of crime, I'll say, uh, you could have did that shit in so many. We did science projects as kids, man. You could have made a little molecule to make a description of a virus or something being nasty thrown at this guy. Like you could have, man. It's so many creative ways to deliver that message, and you gonna spit on somebody, right? The third thing is who the hell was bright enough to sit there and let them do that shit? You sat there and let that man do that shit in public
That's it.
on TV
Yeah, I'm a little bit disgusted.
on TV. Your old lady shouldn't even respect you after that. I'm sorry. That ain't no fucking way, yo. I'd have pulled the
Yeah,
pastor
that's crazy.
I'd have had to pull the pastor to the side. Hey, bro, we gotta do something else. I ain't signing up for this shit.
It's like they're
Like,
trying to be, um, yeah, that's nice. That's gross.
yeah,
Mm-mm. So that I feel like is unless he comes back positive for COVID, I feel like in a church like that, that's like supposed to be like so on fire for Christ or whatever. I don't think that it's going to be much of a, um, I don't think that it's going to be much of a like retaliation for him. Honestly, I think that they're just going to take it as he was just trying to be radical. He was trying to you know
he
be
he
get his point across. So
he did issue an apology though. He did issue an apology, but that was after they start lighting his ass up on Twitter and TikTok, and all these other social media accounts, right? But like, is the apology enough? He was just basically saying that he was trying to be very demonstrative. Is all I don't know how to say that damn word right now, but he was trying to demonstrate what was going on, right?
yeah, do a
And he
demonstration.
trying to do a
Yeah,
demonstration. He said, I took it too far. I apologize. No miracle was performed. Whatever. And then like he made it like a little joke and then kind of ended it or whatever. Like, but is it enough? Like, would you go back to church after seeing that? Like,
right.
would
I
you?
wouldn't. I mean, I would say that I wouldn't because he just took it a little too far. I can't say that I wouldn't like go back to the church because of it. Um, I just think that he needs to be rehearsed. It needs to be, he needs to be rehearsed on how like we're in a pandemic. It's not really good. He could have got sued for that. Like, who is his advisors? Like,
Ah,
he needs to have better advisors, or either they just dropped the ball on this one. But I
they,
say if the dude felt disrespected, I would sue him for defamation of character.
mm-mm. Then it's like, can you sue him because you willingly sat there and did that shit? It ain't like he just walked up to you out the blue and did it. Like you kind of
That's another thing. That's another because he did just willingly sit there and let dudes.
right.
Hey, you know what? And most of the time in them big mega churches like that, they have like waivers and stuff that you sign if you come up on stage or if you're pulled for a demonstration or whatever. If injury or stuff happen, I'm pretty sure they have some type of
For real?
waiver or something. I'm pretty sure.
I didn't
I'm
know
pretty
that.
sure they do. A church as big as that, yeah, they probably do. Because I mean, a church is a business, which is why we go back to what we are talking about. That's why I don't
Right.
really like to participate. Because I mean, I got my own business at the same time. I don't
Church.
really, I have my own goals and stuff, and I don't want to, prey on sick, helpless people to trust me to deliver something that only that I can't do that God can do, but
Right.
lean on me for that type of I can't do it. That's why I just I can't.
Right. It. I ain't gonna lie, man. I just feel like church is a big ass scam. Like I told this,
Clear.
I told this shit to somebody one day. They didn't understand what I was saying, but hopefully, like eventually, I'm gonna talk about it more. But
Mm-hmm.
church is the motivation for you to get up Sunday morning to get your motivational speech by whatever pastor you attend, right? To get that motivational speech so
Right.
you can make it through the work week again. That's what church is. It's, in some
Right.
ways, it's been very beneficial to other people, but for me and my point of view, and it's only my point of view. It's my point of view, right? That I just feel like it's a motivational speech every Sunday to get you up enough to get through the work week, right? And then come back Sunday again to get
Mm-hmm.
more motivation, right? So you go to church Sunday, and I grew
Right.
up in the church with my great grandma, my dad. You go to church Sunday morning, go to church Wednesday, Thursday night, sometimes even Fridays, and you still get up Sunday morning and you do it again. You're performing a ritual. Like even just take the drinking of the wine, you're doing it because it's supposed to be like a blood sacrifice, right? It's supposed to be it's the symbology of drinking
Mm-hmm.
Jesus' blood. If that ain't cult like shit, I don't know what is. It's a cult. And I
That's
did.
why you have to separate spirituality with religion. Now, the religious part of you is going to want to go to church. The religious part of you is going to want to meet, and they wear that scripture out.
Mm-hmm.
Never forsake to gather in His presence or something like that. With other believers or whatever. But church is really the church is like you said, you go for motivational, but when you are spiritual, it's different than when you don't necessarily have to go to church unless you need that boost. It's good that to have it or to know where other believers are gathering in case you need that boost.
Right.
But spirituality is how you actually, I feel, now this is my opinion, that's how you have a relationship with God. Spend time with Him, pray, meditate, things like that. You do all
Right.
that at home. Now, there are some people who may be in need of a quick boost or just, to feel like someone is there here physically for them. And that's when the church is supposed to step in. That's when
Right.
they're supposed to do outreach ministry. That's when they're supposed to do like prayer. If someone's supposed to always be at the church praying, to be there for someone in case something a need arises.
Right.
But it's very business, it's marketed, it's all of that, it's too businessy for me, basically.
Especially when you go in the church and it's an ATM in that mother. Like, boy, what? Can't be robbing God on their clock. You can't,
Right.
you can't be robbing God on their
So
clock.
that's my personal, that's
Like with me, spirituality though, like right, I think it's certain parts of the Bible that you kind of need to understand to get to the spiritual side of it, because of certain scriptures in there that
mm-hmm.
it kind of opens the door to other things. You know what I mean? And
Right.
I don't feel like it's a need. I feel like if the
You know I
Bible was taught totally different, then it would be okay. But in the format that is taught in, and people taking it way too literal, I think that's what we get hindered at. That's what we get hung up at. And like, uh,
I kind of feel that same way about some parts of spirituality too.
yeah, it go for everything.
Meaning, meaning everybody is not a witch.
Yes, you are.
Everybody is not a warlock. Everybody, I don't believe that. I don't believe that
We
everybody is.
we
Everyone does not have that gift in the family. Now, I believe that
no
we all connected to the universe and we all have ways that it speaks with us, or, we have feelings and functions. But as far as like, I am a complete witch,
right.
everybody who's spiritual is not supposed to be a witch. You understand?
Nah,
And I feel like it's like that too. Like every church has, everybody trying to be apostle, a bishop,
right.
everybody ain't called. You feel me? And it
Yeah.
ain't that many apostles, and it ain't that many. You know what I'm saying? And that's how I feel about certain stuff with spirituality too.
Right.
And a
Excuse
lot
me.
of these girls or guys or whatever, witches and warlocks and stuff, and dealing with stuff that you really are not supposed to deal with, and you really don't have the authority or the covering to do.
Yeah, you most
And I mean, that's
definitely,
just not him.
you most definitely got to be cut from some type of cloth to even deal with certain things. It has to be,
Mm-hmm.
from what I was taught, it has to be in your bloodline, right? So if it's not in your bloodline,
Mm-hmm.
then don't attempt to do it. And without the proper guidance, you can open spiritual portals that you don't know how to close, and the wrong shit can come out, right? So everything should
Right.
be under careful and close guidance when it comes to the spirituality part.
Right.
But it's also the fact of people still thinking that spirituality or religion is the 100 complete answer for everything, and it's not. I don't feel like it can be. Me personally, I don't feel like it can be. But I get it. I've been around people that live too much in the spiritual side, and I've been around people that live way too much in the religious side of it as well. I think it's a balance to it.
Yeah.
It has to be a balance because the Bible is, again, the Bible's like, it's, we can get in talks about the dates, right? But the Bible's only 2,000 years old. Our DNA as black people
Mm-hmm.
predates that shit by years, decades, millennia, right? And so when we come to this
Right.
religion aspect of it, it's fairly new to the world and the world aspect of it. And it's like, what are the limitations? Because it's a lot of the stuff that we counseling people for nowadays in modern time, that there's a lot of things in the Bible that would be canceled. Period. Like
Right.
how they treat women, like even stoning the kids to death in the Old Testament. Like if your kids were disrespectful, or you could stone them to death. Like it's a lot of things that we don't take literal, right? But it's a lot of things that people are
Mm-hmm.
starting to try to make literal, and it shouldn't be made literal. And I think that example that Pastor Ty did was just fucking egregious.
But like I said, you have to understand like what was going on in that time. That's the only thing.
Right,
You have to know what's going on. Same thing with spirituality. You got to know what's going on or what stuff mean and what what times to do stuff and why stuff is this the way and you know and that's the biggest part of it. People just don't take the time to study it and use it correctly. So just everyone wants to quote it and everyone wants to be woke, but don't study.
right. And,
Everybody wants to be woke. Like, stop, bro.
and spirituality is kind of tricky because it's when you get to the voodoos and the hoodoos and stuff like that, it's more of a verbal thing. It's not written down. Like it's passed down from generation to
Uh-huh.
generation through kids, through grandparents. Even when it comes to home remedies and stuff, a lot of that stuff is based out of voodoo. A lot of that stuff is based out of those spiritual
Right.
healings
I mean, I agree.
that the ancestors taught that's still working to this day. Something simple as lemon and honey, or or honey and garlic. Things like that can heal your body, but the doctor will never tell you that. You know what I mean? And so it's like,
Right. Or seasoning our foods. It's like stuff like that. It's
right,
stuff that we don't think about
right,
that come from, spirituality.
right.
hmm But everybody ain't witches and everybody ain't warlock. But okay then. Oh, but okay then.
But I like when it comes to sheeple, right? You use that word sheeple. I use the word sheeple sometimes, right? And it's people being hurted, right? Why? What would possess
Mhm.
a man to sit up there and let somebody do that to him? Like that's the part that's mind-boggling to me. Like, why would you sit up there long enough? Why would you sit up there long enough to let a man do that to you? For any type of example, I don't care who you is.
Trust. You obviously trust them. Yeah.
Like I,
You obviously trust that he was
but
like
where's
right. I get what you're saying. Like, where do you draw the line of your
right,
trust?
right.
Like, when does it like when do you draw that line? When you not trust your pastor enough to ruin your credit, or when you not
Right.
trust your pastor enough to beat your kids. What is that line that's crossed? Yeah, I get
Like,
that.
and when is
Because
it?
you want to spit in my face.
Yeah, like when do you cross that line? And then it leads to me to ask the question as well. Do you um do you start creating boundaries in church? Right? Is it certain limitations? Like it always has been, certain unwritten rules. When you get up and walk through the middle of the church, you hold your finger up for whatever reason. I don't know. It ain't like it make you silent. It kind of just draw more
Mhm,
attention to you. But it's like it's certain
mhm,
unwritten rules, especially in black churches. You know what I'm saying? The things that we do and how we do things.
mhm.
Like when do you stop certain
It
stuff,
is. It
man?
is.
Like that's crazy. So I'm
So you
gonna
think that it was a?
go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
said, so you basically think that it was a form of um, manipulation, or it was like based in him? I guess I just see it as like that's just how they do in them churches. They
Nah,
trust them people with their lives.
I I feel like it's another form of slavery because it's like we
Being in church.
yep because we when you deal with pastors and just think about coming up because I ain't been to church in God knows when and I'm not going right. But coming up, I was raised in church every freaking Sunday, yo. I was there every Wednesday with my grandmother Aretha. I remember
Mm,
those nights. It's certain things like coming up, you don't ask questions about the Bible. Like that was one thing that I always had a
mhm.
problem with as a child. And it's like, why don't I ask questions about it? So when I got older, I asked questions about it and I found my answers, or what I feel like to believe is my answer. There's also other things where you don't really question the pastor or the pastors is like the untouchables in the church in a sense, right? And I'm just jokingly
Right,
saying this shit, right? So you have to
right.
go through the deacons and the mothers of the church, you know what I'm saying, and those people before you can like really get to the pastor, right? And then like I had a conversation with mom one day, right? And it's like I asked her a question of why the pastor don't never come to y'all house, but y'all always go out there. That nigga too good to come over here? Like how many times the
Mm.
pastor been in your house? Like literally.
I can
Other
go
than
on. I
that,
can go in on how honey,
like
how we
it's
used to be
certain
on.
questions that need to
We used
be
to
asked.
serve her dinner, this, that, and the third, like it was a
Yeah,
lot.
like it's certain questions that need to be asked and addressed because it's like it's this unwritten rule where we don't question the people. And then I seen a post that says, "Oh, he a man of God, you got to forgive him." The fuck does that mean, yo? Like, where does that come from? And that goes back to like, where do we draw the lines and the boundaries of certain ideas about church? You know what I'm saying? And then I also think about the book. Oh, what's the name of the book? Oh shit. Hold up. Let me grab my book real quick.
Mhm. But I know you're definitely growing up in church. There was a lot that where the people put the pastor up on a pedestal, and that's one reason why I don't really agree um with that part of being in church. I just don't, So, and there's a lot of questions that I have personally in church that I could not get answers. I felt like I could not even go to the pastor and ask certain questions because she was always too busy, or she always, was on a consecration or whatever, a fast or whatever. But there's some things that I just felt like she was not aware of because she never talked about it in church, like spiritual things, like things I was feeling, seeing, and that was happening to me because she never talked about it. So I felt like it made me feel like I was out of place in a lot of ways. Yeah, it made me feel like I was out of place. So she never talked about the things that I was experiencing. So I felt like I can't talk to her. She wouldn't know. And I thought that was always weird. And that's what made me kind of like look at church or really want to do some research myself about church because I was experiencing things that was spiritually that I never heard in church, never came up. and I felt like I couldn't talk to anyone about it. But there was another community that was talking about it, another group of people that was experiencing that and was explaining it, and it piqued my interest, and that's what really made me question, um, being in church versus taking a more spiritual solo route.
Mm. So you had questions that couldn't be answered.
I felt like they couldn't be answered because the pastor never talked about the things that I was going through or the things that I felt spiritually or the things
Right.
that I experienced. So that's why I felt like I needed to research myself. But I found a group of people that was talking about it.
Right.
Like I could just go on for days about the stuff that I dealt with, and you start to kind of feel like it's not for you, or you start to kind of think it's a lie because wait a minute, none of this ever happened. Like you hear about, you know, Jesus casting out demons and talking to the devil, but it's like touched on, and then it's always this hunky dory, like beautiful story, like, oh, Jesus was tempted in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights, and you see how he made it. He made it through. He made it through. No, I want to know, did he really like was talking to the devil? Like, did he see him like I see him? Like,
Yeah.
is that what happened? Like, I wanted that type of teaching. Like, was he like in the flesh, or was he like spiritual form? And I felt like I couldn't ask those questions to my pastor because it obviously wasn't like she didn't understand. Because she
Right.
talked about the devil tempting Jesus, but like, did he see the devil like I see the devil?
Man.
And that's what made me look into being more spiritual.
So I get that story when we actually do the podcast, but like the older I got, the more I felt odd at being in church. And I grew up in the church. Like I'm so church that my grandma was playing the piano, but my aunties was cooking breakfast before service. Like, nigga, I was in there. Like my granddaddy built the church that we went to, and my granddaddy and my daddy built the shit together. So like, I'm church to death, right? And so it got to the point where these questions started arising in my head, and um, I couldn't I couldn't talk about it because nobody else around us talked about it. And certain things I would ask, it made me know that I can't ask that question I really want to ask. I can't ask that because I know it'll not get answered, and I know I get looked at funny,
Right.
right?
Right.
So it kind of puts you in this weird
Mm-hmm.
position. Is like, nigga, am I crazy or nigga, am I crazy, right? So
Right.
it puts you in that weird
Right.
position, and it's
Because
like,
they never explained it.
yeah, like you just
You will
have,
always hear these stories of like back in the day when people was like casting out demons. This one pastor in a country church somewhere was
right,
like doing some awesome spirit work. I'm like, oh God, I was born in the wrong time, like feeling, like
right,
that's the guy I want to meet. That's
but
how I get what you're saying, because it was definitely like that for me.
and like I'm not even
And that's why
afraid,
I feel like today, like I feel like it's kind of useless.
right?
It's useless, really,
And then like even
to go to church. That's how I feel.
I'm not afraid to say it. Like I used to see shit as a child, right? And I don't
Right, me too. That's what I was trying to explain.
like niggas. Like somebody should explain me some shit before I saw some shit.
Right.
And I saw some shit, and I never said nothing to nobody. And it wasn't. It's this one story. I'll say this story right now. Right. This is the reason why. And my grandma knew a lot of this stuff, but again, it wasn't talked about in the family like that. This is the reason why we have to be more open and teaching our kids not only spirituality but what religion is, and how we see things, and we're more connected spiritually to a lot of things than a lot more other people. Yeah, man, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Tyler, I'm gonna get to your comment in a second because that shit true. Um, but so like where I grew up at with my, I guess you would say my dad. I not really grew up, but the family house, right? My granddaddy passed before
Mm-hmm.
I was old enough to remember who he was, right? But I remember being at this house, and it's a two-story house. If anybody know my family in the box, you know what I'm saying. You know what the house I'm talking about. In the middle of the summer, yo, what up, bro? In the middle of the summer, right? Georgia heat. We can go to the top of the house. It's a 2-story house. We could go to the top of the house, and at the top of the house, that entire floor would be freaking freezing cold to where you need to put a jacket on. It is what it is. It used to be like going up the stairs to that top part of the house. From the inside of the house, it used to be some plastic hanging up there so that cold draft wouldn't come down. I don't know why. And the house kind of built in a hill, like it's kind of built in a hill, so it steps on both sides. And anyway, right, we leaving the house one day, and it's also a water fountain in the front of the house, right? So if this is the water fountain, right, we backing up to come out the house this way, and I look up, at the top floor of the house, and I see a man standing in the dang window with some overalls on and a white T-shirt, and I'm shook. I'm shook it, nigga. I'm so shook to the point where I don't say nothing, but I'm not scared. I felt protected, like I wasn't scared at all. And I was like, damn, I wonder who that was.
Right.
And someone was like, that's your granddaddy. And I was like, I never told my daddy this. And my daddy had a pickup truck. So it was my daddy driving. It was me sitting beside my daddy. Then, Vars and my brother Mooka. Get to the house, I never said that. My grandma passed a couple years ago. R.I.P. to Burt Jones, right? And grandma had Alzheimer's. I go to my auntie house one day, and grandma said, somebody in the hallway. And I said, auntie, who is that? Oh, she was like, that's daddy. I said, oh. So she seen him in the hallway? And she was like, yeah. She said that all the time. He wearing them overalls he always wear with the white shirt. Nigga, what? Yo, I'm 30 fucking years old when that shit is said. And I look at my auntie, and she was like, you must have. I said, yes, ma'am. She ain't even finished the sentence. She just kind of shook her head and walked off. Like it was like an understood thing. Like, what the fuck? Nigga, I was a child when that shit happened. I'm an adult now when my grandma says this before she passed. Like, come on, man. It's certain things in the world that we need to talk about and tell our kids, so our kids won't be afraid to talk about these dreams and things of that nature, right? This book is finna get on my nerves, and I think somebody got it. But something Negro. The Miseducation of a Negro is a book that talks about how our pastors mislead us. The book was written in 1985 because our pastors are looked at as leaders in the community, especially in our community, right? So
Right.
that book alone was speaking on stuff like this in 1985. We in 2022.
Right.
That's a lot of gap time, man. That's a lot of gap time, and not understanding, not being able to fix something as a culture of people, right? That we just keep sweeping under the rug, man. And if we looking at these people as leaders in the community, what are they leading us to? Like where are we going?
I mean, they really just building. That's why I say I really think they're just building their dream. They're building their dream business, and so I'm not interested. I'm not interested.
It's not a business. Like, even on the business side of it, right? Churches file what they call a 501c3, which makes them a tax write-off. It's basically like giving something to the Salvation Army, right? But with that being said, how much is the government controlling the church? Because I also said this too, and I was taking notes at one point in time. I don't know where that book is. He leading us into a burning house. Boy said he leading us into a burning house. But Dr. King said that as well.
They definitely have a lot of control on how they do things in the church, like what they can talk about.
Right. So, hey, these are old notes I had. I don't know. I was still working at the prison because you can. Dang. Let me unmute this thing real quick, because the notes that I was taking, I was working at the prison with my brother Henderson, and we was always talking about shit like this. And So these notes right here, right? I was working at the prison when I was doing this stuff. So these just notes, right, from the prison. This is actually about the history of the, well, not the history, but the movement of the sun and how it mimics the Bible. Like I really went in when I started studying this stuff, and we like had major discussions about a lot of this stuff, right? And so, damn, I forgot the point I was gonna make. That quick.
To a burning house. What does that mean?
When I say where they leading us to, he said to a burning house. Oh,
Oh, to a burnout.
that's what Dr. King said in his very last speech. He said, I'm afraid I led my people into a burning house." And he started changing his speech and to the poor man's movement. Like there's videos up of that last speech as
Mm-hmm.
well. Um, Lyndon B. Johnson came out with the tax code before he became president. What tax code? That 501c3,
Hmm.
Henderson. But Tyler said, put them up there and they live the opposite of what's preached, but can't ask questions when. Oh shoot, what happened? Can't ask questions when we notice what's wrong, right? You right about that. You find something wrong, you can't ask questions. They kind of put you in the box. I ain't gonna lie, that's what made me leave the church. Like, I just certain
Come
questions.
out. Oh yeah, church. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know. I wonder how many other people have stories like that that really that just the idea of asking the questions or being forced into a box made them feel uncomfortable. To where you can't ask questions
Being
or
forced into.
yeah, like you kind of like forced into
Oh
a
yeah.
box because like you want to ask a
That,
question, but you like is they gonna think I'm the devil for asking this question? Like why whatever.
right.
Like even like
Yeah. Because what really like it like really got me like first like I did like do a when I was like 12 or no, say about 14 or something. Anyway, we had like a mentor thing where the pastor's daughter was my mentor. And I felt really comfortable opening up to her. And I was like, okay, this is like the perfect time to ask questions. Like, and so I would say things
right,
like, have you ever seen something? I said I have times where when I'm laying in bed, I actually can visit other countries. If have you ever, done that before? And she was like, yeah, that's called astral traveling. And I was like, why y'all don't ever talk about that in church? Because I experienced that as a kid a lot.
but
And she
it's
was like, well, eh, that's not totally different. Like it's different. Like some people are not ready for that. And I was like, well, then there are people in the world. And I thought that, the church is where you go when you have the spiritual questions.
right.
But she was like, yeah, she really excited me about knowing. But then at the same time, I noticed that even though she was the pastor's daughter, she was like the rebel. And I was like, okay, this is a different direction. So that's when I got older. I was like, I'm gonna figure out what is this about?
Right.
Like, what is this astral traveling? How does this happen? Like people that's experiencing stuff like me. And but I done did my, dibbling dabbling and I'm good. I mean, I'm not
I told you that we should have had a serious
because
conversation before you did that because like I ain't gonna say I've been guided by some people, but I've been blessed to walk with some people and not know it and have those conversations. Like
oh well that's good.
some
That's like
like
that's
some
me.
serious heavy niggas in the game that like I'll give y'all this piece. Henderson, if you still in the chat, you know who I'm talking about. He was in 3A, right? He was in 3A,
Hmm.
and me and a couple more of the brothers was outside building. We was in a cipher. It was me, a Muslim, a 5%er, um, a preacher, and a God body, right? Like if y'all don't know what that is, I'll explain later. Anyway, he heard us talking and building, and this dude never said shit. This dude, you would never thought that inmate existed, right? Put all the inmates up, walking through the doors doing our check. And the dude pulled me to the side. He said, "Hey, another inmate heard you talking about the religion stuff, whatever. he wants you to holler at him. And I was like, the hell he want me to holler at him for? He was like, hey, he don't talk like that. He don't mean no harm, whatever, just breaking it down. So I don't think I went and talked to him that day. It might have been another day. He said, he walked up to me himself and was like, I heard you talking about African spirituality stuff, blah, blah, blah. Here's a book you need to go check out. And it's called The Orishas. I still haven't got the book to this day, right? And so he went explaining the Orishas to me. And I was like, I ain't never heard of that. He went explaining to me how to build an altar and all this other stuff. And he was like, be careful when you do this. Be careful when you do that. He was the first one to taught me about Sage of Palo Santos, too. But, right? And so...
Yeah, I don't want to do none of that. Y'all have fun with that.
This is a true story, yo. I swear to God, it's a true story. Dude had 20 years to the door for moving bricks. Like, this nigga had bricks when they called it. He had 20 years. He came out one day and he went to wearing his Ileki. And if you know what Ileki is a sign of protection. Certain colors mean you're a Babalawo. Certain colors mean other things. But it's those real colorful beads a lot of people wear. And they wear them in Ifa. And a couple other ones. So he had on this Ileki, and I was like, where the hell you get Ileki beads from? He was like, nah, I made them out of paper. And I was like, oh, okay. He was like, man, I'm finna get these 20 years back. I'm finna go home in 2 years. I was like, how the hell you feel like you finna go home in 2 years? Boy, you got caught with a lot of shit. Like, you ain't finna go home in 2 years. He said, watch this. He never went out to yard. He never went out the yard. Period. He always stayed in the dorm. He started going out the yard all of a sudden. Like 2 weeks prior to his trial, he started going out to the yard. And I noticed he was outside praying barefooted. That dude came back and showed me the paperwork that said he was finna go home within the next year. After doing all that praying and like what he was doing. And that's why I tell people, a lot of this stuff is real, but you need to be around the right people to do this shit. Like, don't think you finna jump into spirituality and think your shit finna be like the Bible. Because I promise you, my nigga, it is not. Your ass is gonna be awoke to some new shit. And if you ain't ready for that new shit, that shit gonna make you, hey,
exactly.
I'm at where I'm at.
I'm not ready.
Yeah, man.
I'm not ready. I was not ready. I don't want it. And I mean, nope, I don't want it. That's something I experienced that I don't ever want to experience again. And I'm going to drink to that.
They'll judge, but preach thou shalt not be judged. Oh, yeah, that's real heavy in the church. That was one thing that was a deciding factor for me one day, man. When I seen a minister go up there and call out somebody that was liked the same sex, pretty much, like they was gay, and it's been known for that person to be gay for fucking years, right? And the minister called out this person in the middle of church, man. Like, that turned my guts so much. It's like, how do you judge somebody, but how do you put them on blast in the middle of the church on top of that? Especially when the Bible says come as you are, but obviously that's not the right thing, because like y'all niggas done kick homeless people out of church. Y'all don't let certain people come into church. So how the hell I'm gonna learn anything?
Right.
That's a lot of standards to it, man. It just need to be like really washed away. You know what I'm saying? It needs to be revamped if y'all gonna still deal with it.
Do you believe that do you believe with you know what you know spiritually and stuff, do you believe that we are able, that we can judge each other, or we have that right?
We all have a right to an opinion. Now, judging somebody, I think we do.
I mean, I ain't got no heaven or hell to put you in. But
exactly.
For me to say you need to get your shit together.
Well, I say
that's valid.
Depending on the place that it's coming from. If it's coming from a good, healthy place, then yeah. Right? So if you're in a bad situation and say a friend call you, right? And your friend like, woe is me, I'm tired of this, I need to move on to the In that essence, you're not judging them, because you're going to say, hey, Stop all that crying. Do something that's gonna get you out of that position. Are you not
Okay.
judging or giving an opinion? Like, you know what I'm saying? But to
Right.
just blatantly
Right.
just come out and say a person you have no idea about, you walking down the road and the fifth girl on the left, you just say, she just like, right? That's uncalled for. The fuck, you know what I'm saying? And if you can't say it in their
Okay.
face, don't say it behind their back. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of. That's kind of why I started liking Islam, but I had to move away from that too.
So if someone were to say like, you're 22 and you have 5 kids, like, and you're still struggling, you might need to stop having kids. You
That's
think
not.
that's not appropriate?
That's reality. That's
So you don't think that's
reality.
appropriate?
I do think it's appropriate. How you deliver the
I
message,
think it's appropriate.
how you deliver
I
the
think it's
message is
appropriate.
completely on you. But if you,
You need to chill out because
yeah,
people are
yeah,
telling you to go through. Like it's not working. Like you
like
don't see that it's not working.
some things are harsh reality, right? Some things are this harsh reality, and we have
Right.
to, men and women, we have to put that ego aside and get the message. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Grandma Doretha said something one time too, man, and it was a gay dude in the church way back then, right? And she said, "Don't worry about who's delivering the message. Get the message."
Right.
And it's like we all prejudge people, right? But it's like,
Mm-hmm.
can you really get some information out of that person delivering that particular message? I also feel like it gives the pastors a freaking pass to do a lot of other stuff as well. You know what I'm saying? When like, don't worry about the person getting the message. Some people just shouldn't be daggone pastors.
Mm-hmm.
Like I flipped my lid.
I completely agree.
I flipped my lid when I found out certain pastors couldn't read, but they was teaching the Bible. Nigga, you can't read and you teaching the
Oh
Bible.
Lord,
Nigga, how? Like the hell?
you
Like
going off straight memory.
yes, can't read a
You
lick.
going off straight memory.
Can't read a lick. And I'm like, y'all don't find a problem
So
with
you
this?
going off straight memory.
And y'all telling me as a child I got to damn listen to this man? This man can't read. And not to say you're not educated, not to say you're not that you can't give me information, but if you're teaching me a subject and you cannot read that subject, how then are you really teaching me? Or you're indoctrinating me, which
Right.
is another big issue because indoctrination means I'm just teaching you what I know and you should believe what I know. You know what I'm saying? Everybody have a
Right.
different concept
That's
of a
how it is.
message. Yeah, everybody have a different concept
Yep.
of a
That's
message. That's
how it
another
is.
problem I have with the Bible as well, though. Right? The Bible is up for too much interpretation. So I feel like one of my biggest questions when I was like really researching was if God really gave us this message, why he didn't give us specific directions? Some things are very open for interpretation in the Bible, and it's like, who's to say what we interpret is the right thing? It's just a question.
Hmm.
It's a question because
That's
some
where
like
it goes into say like you gotta honor him in spirit and in truth. You gotta seek him for yourself, stuff like that. You know how they come up with it.
yeah, that's a good answer, right? But what if my truth is evil? What if perfect example? I've seen pimps. I've heard of pimps using Bible scriptures to finesse women.
Who was that? Who did that?
I ain't calling no names.
Who did that? Somebody else did that. Use the Bible. I mean, well, slave owners, of course.
Exactly, right? That's in the book of
Slave owners,
Deuteronomy,
they yeah, they did that.
first. That's what I'm
Hmm.
saying, right? So even what's that scripture? Um, slave masters be subject to your oh, slaves be subject to your masters with all reverence, not only to those who are good and equitable, but also to those who are perverse. First Peter 2:18.
Mm.
So this is what I'm saying, right?
It says to those who are perverse.
Yeah, I'm finna send you the link. Hold up.
I didn't know that.
Man, this
So we gonna throw that scripture out. But all the rest of it, yeah, let's do that.
man, there's a lot of scriptures we can throw
I didn't
out.
understand that.
Like man, like the one we was talking about earlier, right? I pulled it up. I went and got the book that I don't never pull out, right? It's a Bible. It's like one of the only things my pops bought me, but it came in good hand, right? So Deuteronomy 25:11, right? It says, if two men are fighting and the wife of one of them comes to rescue her husband from his assailant, right? And she reaches out and hit the nigga in the nuts, you can kill that woman. Or you should cut off her hand. Like it's a lot of, and people will say that's the Old Testament, but it's some shit in the New Testament that I'm gonna pull up one day, boy. And I'm telling y'all, right? It's a lot of stuff, man. It's a lot of stuff in the Book of Genesis. I ask any person this, and we can get up off here after this, right? If when we talking about women in the Bible, we know a lot of scripture, and a lot of people say that that's a scripture in the Bible. Second Corinthians, second is it Second Corinthians? I want to say it's Second Corinthians that say women should speak after church. They shouldn't speak while church is going. Second Corinthians. So a lot of people interpret that scripture and say women shouldn't be preachers, right?
Right.
That's a whole nother ball
Right.
game. It's a lot of different it's a lot of different things in the Bible,
But that's the
man.
thing, like, yeah. Yeah, it's a lot. It is a lot. But I'm honestly, there's a lot of things that are truthful in the Bible too. Just like there's a lot of superstitions that we do that don't really, that's been watered down or changed throughout the years that we're not completely sure how to do or whatever like that.
Right,
It's some things that, you know, don't go, but I do know that parts of the Bible is real and it does work. And yeah. So to each his own on this journey of life, as far as finding your way to wherever paradise you would like to spend eternity in. Um, I for one don't do everything like the spiritual, like spirituality is a yes to certain stuff. Other stuff I'm not gonna deal with. Because
right.
honestly, when you have a spiritual gift, you don't have to do that, baby.
Yes, you do.
You don't have to look into all that stuff when you have a spiritual gift
Yes, you
because
do.
the stuff just comes to
I'm
you.
gonna tell you why.
If you are spiritual, if you are naturally spiritual and you have that gift or that, it was passed down from generation to generation, what you're gonna want to do is really block and protect. That's the main thing you're gonna be focusing on because you're gonna be so, you know, this is my opinion.
Right, and I get it, right. But if you have a gift, it is your duty to tap into that gift because it is God given. Like no matter if you believe in
Hmm.
the Bible, you believe in Islam, you believe 5% nation of gods on earth, whatever, right? If you have a gift, it is your duty to tap within that gift because that gift could be your purpose on living the life that you want to live. And I'm preaching to myself right now, to be honest. I'm not even gonna flex on that shit because of the conversation I had before we even got on the podcast, right?
Hmm.
It's a book. It's a scripture. Um, is that there is only a limit to things being spoke on repeatedly. Oh yeah, that's what I meant to say earlier. When I was doing a lot of studying and writing stuff down, me going to church over a period of 2 years, I noticed a lot of scriptures repeat themselves. A lot of the services repeat themselves, right? So we have the
Hmm. Hmm.
same topic type, but a different title to make it feel new, but it be the exact same thing from a year ago, 6 months ago, right? And it's a loop. And once I found that loop, I was like, nah, because it's too much other stuff in here that needs to be taught or we need to read on and broke down than us keep dealing with the same scriptures over and over and over and over again.
Right. Every year, it's the Daniel in the Lion's Den, and every year it's the Same thing on Easter and every year. Yeah.
Yes, it's a lot.
Because
Even
it's a business. That's why every year we have Thanksgiving, Christmas, Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's
right.
Day. It's a business.
If you ever watched that movie, that Nate Turner movie, a Nat Turner movie, the slave rebellion of Nat Turner. I think the dude's name was Nate Parker that did the movie. It's the slave rebellion of Nat Turner. It's a great movie, right? But it's a script. It's a script in that movie within the first, I want to say like 15 minutes of the movie. It's like the introduction to the movie, right? And then the movie says, the guy says, the slave master is talking to another slave master, and he was like, "How you keep all your niggas in check?" And he was like, "Well, I got this boy that can read, and he preached to him every Sunday. So my slaves usually be calm after this." And I was like, "Oh shit! Like, what they trying to say?" Then the other slave owner says,
Mm.
"Well, I'll pay you to let your boy come to my slave to my plantation and preach to my slaves to keep them calm. I'm tired of having runaways, this, that, and the third." And throughout the movie, you see him moving to different plantations, and the slave owner is actually getting rich because they're paying him to come to these, you know what I'm saying, and preach this word, right? And it's like, oh shit.
Mm.
Nat Turner flipped that shit and started preaching, but he went to preaching the slave rebellion thing, like we shouldn't be treated like this, that, and the third. So it's like, it's always a question for me also that I ask a lot of people too. What did Nate Turner, what did he what did he see in that Bible that made him lay his life down to free his people? How many ministers do you see nowadays that will lay their life down to free their people or to teach their people something? Something that's real, something that can get you out of a desperate and dire situation other than hope. Like they taught, preachers teach hope every Sunday. Obama taught hope for 8 years and we ain't get shit for it.
Right.
Like it's a lot of questions that I have, man. And we're gonna do I don't know. I like speaking about stuff like this. I'm gonna do a real podcast on it, on just breaking down certain biblical questions and stuff. And I just want it to be questions within the community to start being talked about, because like even with you when you went on your spiritual journey, like you needed a guide, then you needed somebody to guide you to certain things, right? To walk you
Definitely
through
did.
certain things, right? And it's we don't have that because it's looked down upon. We could have went right down to
Right.
Savannah. It's a spot in Macon that I've been hearing about that I haven't been. I don't know anybody that's gonna take me up there or even describe the area good enough for me to get to that spot. But it's a lady up there. This real strong and spiritual. Some people in South Carolina that's like that. Shit, when I went to Miami, nigga, it was like a little voodoo shop on every corner in Miami. Like, but we need to like really talk to these people and get our own understanding about this shit.
Honestly, and at the same time, I feel like our people are not ready for that power, that type of power,
Yes, we are.
because we are so against each other. We are so against each other in
Well,
relationships and
right.
business and life at work. Like we are so against each other that it would destroy us.
I mean, we already destroying ourselves. That ain't gonna make it no faster.
Can you imagine, like, scared to date a female if you knew that she knew
I
a
would be.
lot about a lot? You feel me?
Hey, listen, black
Yeah,
men, right? Black men. I'm gonna tell y'all some
you
shit.
tell your son if these little girls start wearing little stuff, and you be like, you feel me?
Oh, me and my kids have talked about that shit too. I'm not scared to teach my kids that stuff. Like, I'm gonna talk to you about this shit because it's some women in Vidalia. There's some women in this 912 area that has been doing voodoo work on men for
Oh
years.
yeah.
And because we don't know, we just oblivious to it. It's even some women that done did some voodoo work on some other women. And if you
Oh
talk
yeah.
if you talk to
Definitely.
the right people, if you talk to the right people, you're gonna learn. You remember Uncle BK?
Hmm.
It's rumor that has it that something was done to him.
Um,
Mm-hmm. It's this shit is out here. We live like we geek you to death, but we don't say it. Right? We
oh
geek
yeah.
you to death and we don't say it. But I think we are ready for it because when we talk about the Haitian Revolution, that's how the Haitian Revolution was won.
I don't think we're ready for it.
Yeah, we
I
are.
think that
Go watch the
that
documentary
we can
about
do better as
Tariq Nasheed,
we
the
can do better as
1804.
respect and common courtesy to each other in the black community before we start trying to teach each other voodoo and spells and hoaxes and stuff.
But we do it now. Step on a crack, break your own back. As a child, how many times did you step over a crack by hearing that shit?
Right, sweeping the pole, sweeping out the door at night, all kind of stuff.
Those all come from voodoo. Those all come from
Right.
voodoo. Like we've been learning it. We just never put it to practice. But I also think it teaches you more responsibility. The more I learned about Ifa and voodoo, the more I stopped like littering. Like I will fight somebody for throwing trash out my window right now. We don't do that.
Mm,
I don't like nah. Because how is the earth gonna take care of you if you don't take care of it?
that's right.
It's part of the everyday practices. Like I think we all should learn some forms of it, right? But we all should know the power. Like it's certain scriptures in the Bible that voodoo people use to cast spells.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's
I had a woman. She was. I don't even think she was that deep, but she told me. 'Cause I was like, I just really honestly, I was like 20 something years old, getting over the divorce, and I was like, I'm just really lost. Like, I just feel like I don't have anybody around me that trusts me, that
mm,
I can trust. And she told me to read Psalms 91, Psalms 23. She was like, just read those two scriptures, and pray and ask God to show you. And to this day, if I want to know anything about anything, if you read Psalms 21, Psalms 23, Psalms 91, and ask him to show you, if you gonna see it. I'm talking about that's very powerful. Just doing that. And she was like, read it 3 times and all kind of stuff. And then she went to the extent was like put open scissors up under your bed. And I was like, I ain't doing that. I ain't
yo,
doing that.
okay,
And she was
so
like, and if a witch come to your house, put some scissors up under your couch, she ain't gonna be able to get up. So all kind of stuff. I said, I'm good.
hey, so right, when it comes to saying it 3 times, that is a voodoo practice.
Right, that's what I know.
But it's
That's what she
but
was saying.
but it's also in the Bible because the Bible also says let everything be established by three witnesses. Three
Hmm.
times. It's we have sacred numbers and geometry all through the Bible. We don't know it because we're not taught, and that's when
Right.
those sacred. Even if you look at the 369 method by Nikola Tesla.
I was just gonna say that. The 369. Once we master 369, the possibilities are endless. Yeah.
Yeah, like so it's like even look at the Bermuda Triangle, the power of three. When you look at the pyramids, how it's lined up with the stars. All of it is based on a number principle, synchronicity.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The Fibonacci sequence. Like now, when I learned the Fibonacci sequence, the Fibonacci sequence is in everything. You cannot get away from the Fibonacci sequence. It is in your DNA. It is in everything that is around you. It is the same pattern everywhere. That's a lot of shit that we connected to, right? That you just I ain't gonna say everybody should go that deep, but it's
See, that
just
ain't okay. I get you though.
yeah,
I get you though.
it ain't for everybody to go that deep. I'm gonna say that shit,
Right.
right? It's not for
I don't
everybody to
think
go
it's
that deep,
mine. I don't think it's mine.
but
I
it's
don't want
like, but it's like getting to that point takes a lot, man. And I
I ain't
stopped
gonna lie, I'm
studying.
spooked out about it. I'm spooked out about it because I was so sensitive at the beginning and then I dove in it, like you said, without any guidance. I'm not gonna lie, I'm scared of it.
Nah,
Um,
ain't nothing to be scared of. You're in control of it.
no, honey, no, I wasn't
You
in
are
control of this.
because you
People
didn't
get
know what you.
mad and carrying on. People get mad and carrying on over sleep paralysis, baby. You mess with that spiritual stuff the wrong way. Sleep paralysis is the least of your problems.
You can control that too.
No.
You
I mean,
can.
I done figured out how to control sleep paralysis. I just sleep with my Bible on.
No,
That killed all that.
that don't.
It worked for me.
It hey, it might work, but right, it's like
And I got a certain little chant, not chant, but a certain little thing I say every night, as long as I say it that way. I'm good.
Cool. All right, man. We finna get up out of here, man. We both got to hit the clock in the morning. It's been a great talk. Appreciate everybody for jumping in. Make sure
Right.
you
Thank
like,
y'all.
comment, subscribe, and follow. Make sure you go to the Stay Dangerous
Share.
YouTube page and follow that as well. I'm gonna start posting those
Right.
links. I gotta get on my shit, but I'm gonna start posting those links. We're gonna try to do this way more often. I took a break last year because I was burnt out. I'm not gonna lie, I was completely burnt out. So
That's understandable. Take your breaks as you need them.
yeah, so we back at it, man. Peace, love, and light. We out until
All right.
Sunday. We'll see y'all Sunday, 8 o'clock.